This meeting is being live streamed. Okay. Yes. Yes. Good evening, everyone. And today we are discussing about paleontology. And yesterday and the day before yesterday, we have covered Indian geology and different type of geological divisions or regions of the India. We have discussed, and for each division we have mentioned all the importance, geological and economical importance we have discussed. So try to watch that videos regarding Indian geology first and Indian geology second. Two chapters I have covered, and today I'm going to cover this paleontology, which is third and fourth. So today I will cover third block, and tomorrow or day after tomorrow I will cover all remaining paleontology. And within these 2 days, I am also I will try to cover this geology and economical importance of the Andhra Pradesh and Telangana geological and mineral resources importance. Try to discuss within one presentation. So today we'll discuss about the paleontology, and here you can observe, as I told earlier in classes and presentations, in Precambrian, Proterozoic or Precambrian Proterozoic era, the here we can just what is a fossil, and how it will formed, and when it formed, and where it is available, and what are the paleontological significances, and what are the fossil types, and in India where it will available, is there any particular place to available these fossils, and plant fossils or animal fossils, is there any time scale regarding any time scale significance or importance of these fossils. So these things we are discussing this presentation, and here you can observe in geological time scale in first Precambrian era, again the first skeletal elements like first soft bodies. 1 minute. Soft bodies, metazoans, and first animal traces are presented in the Proterozoic era. Here you can observe it is about 650 to 500 million years ago, and these are the first available fossils in this Proterozoic era. After that, Proterozoic era and Cambrian, Ordovician, Silurian, and Devonian, these Paleozoic era, Mississippian and Carboniferous, Permian, these are comes under a Paleozoic era. In this Paleozoic era, first in Cambrian, first fishes and first chordates we can observe. And after that, in Ordovician, sudden diversification of metazoan families, and after that, in first vascular land plants like this, you can observe here. These type of plants are available, and after that, first amphibious and jawed fishes diversify, and in this Devonian period, which is Paleozoic era. And after that, in Carboniferous, and the first reptiles and trees and seed ferns we can observe. After that, in Permian, and major major extortions of reptiles and diversify we can observe in this Permian period of the Paleozoic era. And after that, in Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous, which is comes under Mesozoic era, these in this Triassic, first mammals and first dinosaurs we can observe. And after that in Jurassic period, first birds and dinosaur diversification we can observe. In Cretaceous and Tertiary and Quaternary, and the Cretaceous is the uppermost period of the Mesozoic era. In the Cretaceous, we can find first primates and evolution of dinosaurs and first flowering plants we can observe in the Cretaceous period of Mesozoic era. And after that, in Cenozoic era, Tertiary and Quaternary periods, mammals is uh, evolution of humans and mammals diversification we can find. And like that, in the paleontology, we are going to discuss what is a fossil, what are the fossil types, and where it is available, and which time it is formed, what are the significant and importance of the fossils related to the geological and geological regions of the Indian continent. Here, paleontology is the study of ancient life through its fossil remains or the traces of its activity as recorded by ancient sediments. As I told, and paleontology is the study of ancient life, animals or plants, whatever. Those are the remains of the traces, remains or traces of the its activity as recorded by ancient sediments. In next coming slides, you can I will show that what are the plant and animal fossils, and subdisciplines are paleobotany, that is a study of the fossil plants, and paleozoology, study of the fossil animals, and in this invertebrate paleontology, vertebrate paleontology, and micropaleontology we are going to study. In the next slide, here you can observe that this is the plant fossil. This is the wood. It is converted into fossil by the deposition of calcareous material in the wood material. And means wood material is here, wood material is as it is replaced by the calcareous material. Then it is converted into plant fossil. Here you can observe these are the some plants leaves preserved in the rocks. Like that, these are the plant fossils. And when we talk about the animal fossils, here these are the dinosaur and the some other small organs of the animals. And here in the types of the fossils, just we are going to cover the altered fossils and altered fossils, trace fossils. So we are going to study about three altered, unaltered, and trace fossils. Next, in unaltered fossils, 1 minute. Yes, in unaltered fossils, original remains fossils and hard parts of invertebrate preserved. In original remains fossils, like these are fossils that contains the original parts of the actual organism. Favorable conditions for the preservation of this type of fossils includes permafrost and umber and thar. Here you can observe different type of the small animals fossils. And here, whereas in the hard parts of invertebrates preserved, like hard parts of the invertebrates like shells, chitinous and exoskeletons and speculoos get preserved as a fossils. The woody part of the plant can also be fossilized, as we have seen earlier in this image. When we talk about the altered fossils, And these changes or alterations have taken place taken place in the morphology or anatomy of the original organisms. Petrified fossils and carbonization we can divide into two in altered fossils. And here, petrification means conversion into rocks. Those are replace formed by the replacement of organic matter of dead organisms by mineral matter. This process is very fine and even cellular structures remains preserved. Okay. And common are silica, calcite, pyrites attack. And for example, wooden or plant fossils, plant tissues of some plants, calcareous skeleton of corals, and certain sponges, molluscon shells attack. These are the some examples of the common silica and calcite pyrite uh, fossils material. In carbonization, occasionally the soft part of body leaves a thin film of carbon while decaying. Those the exact body outlines of organisms can be obtained. During this process, it loses nitrogen, oxygen, and hydrogen, and it is resulting in an abundance of carbon. So while carbonization process, it loses the nitrogen and oxygen and hydrogen, and finally it is converted. Only abundance of carbon will be available as a fossil. And when we talk about the trace fossils, and we have covered the unaltered fossils, altered fossils. Now we are going to discuss about trace fossils. Trace of organisms preserved, sometimes only certain impressions or makes on hard media get preserved as fossil. Here you can see and observe that molds and casts. Here you can observe as it is that animal body preserved like a molds and cast. Here you can observe that the tracks and the trails of the some animals, those are nothing but these are the animals' footprints. And here you can also some footprints are walking or tracks we can observe on the rock body. Here, pros and bornings, these are the some preservations and here again, the gastrolites and caprolites. Here we can observe these are the shell-like carbonization process, and total these organs or shells are converted into fossils without losing their shapes. Means while converting into the organs into the fossil, they are not losing their shapes or they are leaving their prints as it is. And while it is converting into the carbon. The next trace fossils. Next, micropaleontology. Micropaleontology is concerned with microfossils and nanofossils. Such microfossils are, and these microfossils are, nanofossils are very important in the oil field or oil or gas, natural gas finding. And due to this microfossils and nanofossil presence, we can find the natural oil and gases in the subsurface of the earth. The remains of unicellular and multicellular microorganisms and their dissociated elements and skeletal fragments of the macroorganisms. They consist of these types like foraminifera, astrocodes, diatoms, radiolaria. Among these, the foraminifera are forms for short or single-celled protists with shells that can have either one or multiple chambers. Some become quite elaborate in structure. Depending on the species, the shell may be made of organic compounds, sand, grains, and other particles cemented together, or crystalline calcite. And in foraminifera are found in all marine environments. They may be planktic or benthic in mode of life. Because of their diversity, abundance, and complex morphology, fossils, foraminiferal assemblages are useful for biostratigraphy and can be accurately give relative dates to rocks. In rocks, age uh, detection also it is very useful in rock age determination. In petroleum exploration and paleoclimatological studies also, as I told earlier in the slide, it is very micropaleontology very importance in the petroleum and paleoclimatological studies. So the microfossils or nanofossils are the only source of the natural oil and gas resources. And morphology, when we talk about this morphology of foraminifera, here, and you try to read these details while you are writing in the notes or in exam, the kingdom, phylum, and subphylum, class, order, we have to mention while we are talking about or writing about foraminifera. Protista and phylum is Protozoa and subphylum is Sarcodonia and class Rhizopoda and order Foraminifera. So like that, for every fossil, we have to write or we have to note down this kingdom, phylum, subphylum, and class and orders. So then only we can get some good marks or good scoring in your exams. Okay, in when we talk about this morphology of the foraminifera, foraminiferous are single-celled animals protected by hard shells of different type of materials like chitinous and calcareous and silicaceous. And here they are microscopic in size and generally ranges from 0.1 to 1 mm in thickness. And the cells are soft part of the foraminifera, and it is having protoplasm surrounded by the membrane and the protoplasm within the shell test. Endoplasm, dark and granulous, contains like one or more nuclei, a systems for cell secretion and a system for gas exchange. As I told, they are very important, significant, and significance having in the island natural gas exploration. And systems for protein synthesis, ribosomes, and fluid or gas-filled droplets, vacuoles. And here, protoplasm outside the test, ectoplasm, and the pseudopodia, a long string of ectoplasm, and 2 to 3 and 2 to 20 times test diameter, can branch very often, shaping a web-like appearance around the test, surrounded by rather a fluid layer. So, and the morphology of the foraminifera and its sizes and its importance and it is uh, their morphological structure very important in the oil and natural gases studies. So you may get this type of questions in your examination. Next, structure and composition of foraminifera. The test of foraminifera are composed of two different kind of material like secreted by the organism, secreted by the foreign particles gathered from bottom sediments and cemented together. And these are recommended. Some of them are as follows, like chitinous wall composed of thin and transparent present fresh water, benthic foraminifera, and glutenated wall only features for benthic and foraminifera builds its test wall by cementing together exogenous grains like sand grains, oolites, fine grains of calcite or spongy spicules, bicarbonate mineralization. The wall is a simple layer that grades from fine grains inside to coarse grain outside. Rhabdomania is the best example for this wall, and calcareous CaCO3 wall presented for both benthic and planktonic foraminifera. And fourth one, transparent perforate crystals are radial with the lamella laminations that is separated by organic layers. Example, Rotalinia. Rotalinia. Next, these are the wall structure and composition of the foraminifera. Earlier we have discussed about morphology. Now we are discussing about structure and composition. And next we are going to discussion about the applications of the foraminifera or importance of the foraminifera. So here, because of their diversity, abundance, and complex morphology, fossil foraminifera for assemblages are useful for biostratigraphy and can accurately give relative dates to rocks. The oil industry relies heavily on microfossils such as forums to find the potential oil deposits. So these are the I'm repeating and again. This is the best and most important application of the foraminifera. That's why we are concentrating and we are studying and we are developing studies on foraminifera fossils. And these are calcareous fossil. Foraminifera are formed from elements found in the ancient seas. They lived in those. They are very useful in paleoclimatology and paleoceanography studies. They can be used to reconstruct past climate by examining the stable isotope relation of oxygen, ratios of oxygen, and the history of the carbon cycle and oceanic productivity by examining the stable isotope ratios of carbon. In carbon dating, when we talk about the rock age or any fossil age, we we have to know the carbon dating. What is the carbon dating and how they do, and what type of studies will be there in the carbon dating, and particularly and which ratio uh, it is uh, we can identify. We should know like that carbon dating is very important in the identifying the fossils age. or rock or any rock formations age we can find with the carbon dating. And foraminifera can also be utilized in the archaeology in the provenancing of some stone raw material types. Some stone types, such as limestone, are commonly found in containing fossilized foraminiferas. So, in some archaeological studies also, these foraminiferas are having very significant and very importance in their studies. So, like we have to concentrate on morphology and structure and composition and applications of the foraminifera. You may get one question based on this foraminifera importance. Next, corals. The as I told, when we talk about any fossil, we have to write down these phylum, class, subclasses, and the orders we have to write. And includes, okay, here, phylum, Cinderia, class, Anthozoa, and subclasses, Zoantharia, and includes sea anemones and the stony coral with mineral skeletons. In corals, those without skeletons are loosely termed anonymous. Anonymous. Those with skeletons are corals. Coral skeletons are calcareous but may be either calcite or aragonite material will be present in the coral fossil. And two of the mineral forms of calcium carbonate, that is CaCO3. All Paleozoic corals secreted calcite skeletons. Mesozoic skeletons are aragonites, and calcite is the more stable mineral form, and Paleozoic corals are commonly well preserved. Aragonite is the less stable, and in Mesozoic and Cenozoic, corals are commonly poorly preserved. Corals are classified into two types, hard and soft corals. When we talk about the hard corals, sorry, when we talk about hard corals, they have a hard exoskeleton made of calcium carbonate, that is limestone. They are also known as the stony and reef building corals. And the soft corals, they have no exoskeleton, hence they are more tree-like and flexible. The skeleton of soft coral is located within their bodies, and it is less rigid than the skeleton of hard corals. And as we discussed the foraminifera morphology, structure, and composition, like just I want to repeat again, morphology of foraminifera we have discussed, and structure and composition of foraminifera we have discussed, and applications or importance of foraminifera in all industries we have discussed. Now we are discussing about coral, their morphology and their chemical composition. Here, when we talk about this morphology of corals, 1 minute. Corals, here you can observe that this is the body of and inner and outer shells of the some corals morphology. And coral skeletons are calcareous and which can be made either by calcite or aragonite. Both are mineral forms of calcium carbonate, that is CaCO3, and the whole skeleton of a simple coral, corallum conical. The bowl-shaped depression at the distal and end of the corallum, which contains a soft part of the animal, calyx, 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 and the outermost calcareous wall of the skeleton that forms the boundary of the corallum. And the vertical structure, plates radiating from the center of the cavity within the corallum septa. The thin plates joining the adjacent septa, discipiments, discipiments, and the first formed septa is known as the prosepta. Septa appears outside the corallum as a ridge-like structure called costia. These horizontal structures and plates, Fossila is a pit depression at the surface of the calyx that forms due to the stoppage of growth of septa. Columella is a vertical rod that occupies the central region of the coral and extends from the base of the coral's chamber at the bottom of the collex. collex. A solid structure of columella with a knob or pointed end at the calyx is said to be styliform. And the next 1 minute. Here, and we have discussed this hardcore morphology of the corals. Now we are in this slide, we are discussing the hard corals. There are three group of hard corals are there: tabulate corals, order tabulate, and rugose corals, and scalera actinian corals. These are the three type of corals, and they are colonical corals, and their skeletals are made of calcite. They have well-developed tabulate and weakly developed septa. And in second is a rugose corals, order rugosa. They are solitary and colonial corals, and their skeletons are made of calcite. They have well-developed septa and possess coarse ridges on the outer wall of the corallum. They are the rough ridges of wrinkles present on the outer surface of the coral. And when we talk about the third and last one, scaleroactinian corals, order scaleroactinian, they are all solitary and colonial corals. They have light and porous skeletons made of aragonite that different from the rugose corals by their patterns. Here we can observe these three hard corals are different in their pattern. See here this is the different pattern it is having, and the rugose also it is having a different pattern, and tabulate coral also having the different pattern. So as discussed, there are three hard corals are having their own different type of shapes. They have light and porous skeletons made of aragonite. They different from the rugose coral by their patterns. The Scalerontinian coral are arranged in the sets of multiple of 6 and in sets of 4 in case of rugose corals. So the art corals divided into three types based on their material and their patterns. And today, just I want to repeat again in our class, today in our paleontology block, we are discussing about the fossils types and their respective ages or eras and their periods and their existence and their first appearance and their existence or diversification. And in paleontology, type of fossil we have discussed like plant fossils, Here you can see wooden and plant fossils, leaf fossils, and animal fossils. Here and altered, unaltered, and trace fossils we have discussed. In unaltered fossils, we have discussed Ambatar and Permafrost fossils. Altered fossils, petrified fossils and carbonization process we have discussed. And trace fossils and their molds cast, their prints and their tracks we have discussed as here we can see their tracks and their footprints and their molds cast we can observe with, without losing their shapes, original shapes. And we have discussed about micropaleontology, which is uh, very important in oil and natural gases uh, resource identification or in uh, their studies. And after that, we have discussed about morphology of foraminifera and wall structure and composition of the foraminifera, how it is formed and what are the structure foraminifera having, we have discussed. And application or importance of the foraminifera, we have discussed. And like any puzzle, it may have their own significant, own prints or own time scale evidence in their lifetime. And it may help in their applications or their uses may be helpful in the identification of rock ages or fossil ages or any rock dating or carbon like carbon dating studies. And most of the foraminifera applications are useful in the oil industry and carbon dating and archaeological studies. And like foraminifera, we have discussed corals and what are the corals composition, how they form and where they form, what are the different type of corals and uh, and what basis they have divided into, how many types we have discussed. And thank you. I hope you will enjoy this class. Uh, so tomorrow also I'm going to cover paleontology and different type of important fossils and their distribution in the Indian continent and their importance in the all geological and exploration studies. Please, is there any questions? You may post in the chat box or you can 1 minute. And you can uh, comment in your YouTube live streaming. I hope, and in yesterday class also, I have covered last 3 days classes, 2 days classes. I have covered Indian Geology Part 1 and Indian Geology Part 2, and its importance, different rock types or rock formations, their particular places or regions in India, and where they occur, where they present. I have discussed. Hmm, stop sharing. Okay. Hmm. Meeting is no streaming live on YouTube. Okay. Anyway, it is live streamed presentation. I know, but if anyone are there in the Zoom meeting, please ask any questions, any doubts, or uh, I will be here for up to 2-3 minutes for your clarification. Mm, Okay, thank you one and all, and try to watch all three days presentations, Indian geology presentations, paleontology presentations, and in upcoming days I'm going to cover paleontology part 2 and geological importance of and mineral source of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, and I'm also going to cover this. What are the importance of paleontology in uh, Indian geological time scale and Indian geological formations and their age identification and their industrial applications. I'm going to cover next or day next day I will be cover this all topics. I will try to cover. Thank you, sir. Mhm, mhm.